Yo, what's up, Hoophead Nation? And welcome to Buzzer Beaters on Media Paradiso. This is Anthony Toine Corral. And let's get into it, Toine.
Let's go.
Yeah, so what we wanted to talk about this week are the Spurs title contenders? I mean, unbelievably, they are keeping right up with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to go ahead and break down some of the analytics and some of the side-by-side comparisons and so forth so that we can go ahead and show you that these guys seem to be very legit. Then Twana, you probably saw that article about the Kobe and
Yes.
and how they're the little secret that was never revealed about their connection. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to go and then we're going to go ahead and call it a day, and then we'll start our other podcast.
So before we begin, Ed, I wanted to. So I did something yesterday. That I haven't done in. Man, if I try to calculate, I'm thinking somewhere between 16 and 20 years.
What?
Yeah. Can you guess what that might be?
What you haven't done in 16 to 20 years?
Maybe. I could be exaggerating a little, but I think it's really close to 16 years.
Play basketball.
Yep, I ran full court.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh my God, man. So how was that?
Dude, I thought I was going to freaking collapse right on the court. Dude, I sucked so bad. I was so horrible, dude. When you're younger, you pride yourself on your athletic ability. And, when I was younger, I was thin, a lot thinner than I am today. And I was a lot faster and I couldn't do any of that, dude. I've never been like a shooter. I've been more of a passer, rebounder kind of guy.
Yes.
I got about a half-inch vertical,
dude,
that,
you were Sean Marion, dude. You were Sean Marion. That's your game. You were Sean Marion.
It was god awful, Eddie. I was both my lungs felt like they were on fire. I played a game and then I sat a game. I'm like, all right, hold on. And then I played another game and then I sat a game and I'm like, all right, hold on. And then I played a third game and then everyone else was tired. So then it started to feel a little more like normal. But dude, I felt so heavy, Eddie, like just heavy. I couldn't move. I couldn't, not to mention that everybody there, probably the next closest person was maybe 45, 44. There was probably a couple of dudes maybe still in their 30s in there. Dude, I'm 56 years old, bro. I can't keep up with all this.
Dude, I'll tell you something, man. You will not see me sniff a full court basketball game ever again, bro.
Well, trust me, I thought of you when I was out there. I'm like, I'm about to pop in Achilles or an ACL.
Dude, that's exactly why, man, is because, we told this story, on one of our previous podcasts, but I tore my Achilles playing basketball. And when I tore it, I actually was lifting weights pretty hardcore back then, man. I was maybe 50 pounds more than I am now.
Okay.
Right. So, and I was playing basketball and dude, I was moving fools, bro. Right. But of course I blew the Achilles and that was the end of my basketball career. And I did try and play maybe about 3 years after that. I started playing full court again, but I was a little nervous. I wasn't the same. I was very nervous playing and I wasn't as down low as I used to be. I kind of just relegated just being an outside shooter.
Yeah.
And dude, that was it, man. And then interestingly enough, about maybe 6 years ago, maybe even less than that, there's a customer of mine who actually played basketball pretty competitively, and he's actually pretty good. And he asked me to go out shooting with him one time. And dude, this is the first time I shot a ball since that time. Maybe it was probably like 2006 or 7 when I was telling you that after I tore my Achilles when I played again, and this was maybe 4 to 5 years ago. So we're talking, maybe
years at least.
But so 18, 19 years in between, right? Since I last played. And dude, I was embarrassed, man, because I couldn't do a freaking layup anymore, man. Because we were playing horse and I couldn't, dude, I hadn't done it in so long. And I was telling this guy, dude, trust me, dude, I could ball, man. I was a baller back in the day. And then I shooting the shot, that was still there, but it wasn't nice, consistent. But he's like, I could tell you could shoot. I was shooting the outside shot and, it's pretty deep and I was doing it once in a while. So I'd get him on horse with the outside shot. But then
Yeah.
he saw I couldn't do layups anymore. Dude, I was laughing, girl. I was so
Bro.
embarrassed. It was
No, my mechanics were all shot to hell.
yeah.
You know, I've always had that like Tim Hardaway knuckleball
Yeah, totally.
shot
Sean
anyway.
Marion. That's what I'm
Yeah,
telling
yeah,
you. He's
exactly.
Sean
I mean, that's
Marion.
always been my shot, but dude,
Yeah.
I my body wasn't right. I got no lift. Dude, it was just absolutely horrible. And the worst part is like, you know, it's an ego thing, right? You're like looking at all these guys like, dude, this isn't me. Like you're just seeing like a shell of me. Like I want to go hide in a freaking hole. But I kept
Yeah,
at it,
bro.
bro. I kept chucking at it. But dude, it was god awful.
All
It
right,
was,
so let me ask you something, bro.
yeah.
Now that you got a taste of it again, are you gonna keep playing?
So how would I mean, I would like to, but I don't know. I mean, if I get asked to go again, I'll probably go. But
Yeah.
like the problem is that if I go a couple more times, I'm gonna wanna like start to get better. Like I know I'll never be where I was, you know,
Yes.
that I'm clear on that. But I
Yes.
want to at least get to a point where, you know, I feel a little lighter on my feet than I do right now. You
Yep.
know, and I look around and the dudes that I'm playing with, they're not particularly in great shape either. They're just in basketball shape.
Yeah.
You know, they're running around, you know, there's sprints here, sprints there, you
Yep.
know, and so to me, I just want to get there where I feel like I can move around and it doesn't feel like you know, the ball felt really light to me. Like at
Yeah.
first,
Same
like,
here.
yeah,
Same here.
I'm like, are we playing with a guy's ball? Like it feels
Exactly. I
really
felt the
light,
exact same way.
you
I
know,
felt yeah.
but everything else was heavy. My legs were heavy, you know, my movement was heavy. Dude, I was just like an ox out there. And there's this dude that kind of plays like, you know, like a bull, you know, he kind of puts his head down and charges at you. And he
Bro,
hit me a couple times and I'm like, it's all good, you know, like let's go. Like I was starting to get the juices going, you know,
hey,
but
Twan,
yeah.
real quick, bro. I gotta be right back because my batteries are running out. I just realized I don't get my my charger. So hold on, all right? I'll be right
All
back.
right. All right.
Hold your thought, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So everyone out there, I guess I'll just keep chatting for a minute. So yeah, so like I said, I played about 4 games and 2 of those games I was dying. The 3rd game, I got my breath back, and then the 4th game I felt a little bit better, but my game is horrible. So anybody out there that's listening, if you've, you know, played when you were younger and stopped playing and kind of trying to pick it back up, you know, share your comments on, you know, what you
Yeah,
guys think that how does it feel? But to me, it was just awful. I had no rhythm on my shot.
totally.
It was just, dude, the only thing that I would say that was there was my passing. Like I could
Yeah,
still,
that never is
yeah, I
cutting
could
that's
still
fair.
see the lanes. I could still see the cuts. I had a little one behind the back pass that kind of came in clean, you know, and so like stuff like that. And I could box out a lot easier than before because I'm heavier than before. So,
Right.
you know, but the problem was that even when you're boxing out, dude, I can't get off the ground. Like, dude, I just
Yeah.
can't get off the ground. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
I
like
know.
it's freaking horrible.
I
So
I
anyway, I
won't
thought
do
you'd
I
get a
won't
kick
do
out
it
of that.
every game, bro. I'm done with it, man. But
No, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. You know, maybe I'll go here and there. The problem's gonna be that if I go enough times, I'm gonna want to get better. I'm not gonna want to beat. Like,
yeah, but then see what happens, bro, is you're gonna get injured.
yeah, no,
You don't
that's
want
what I'm
that.
afraid of. Yeah,
That
yeah,
no, you don't want that, bro.
yeah. No, I
And
hear you. I hear
you know,
you.
and
I
if
know
you're
I'm
not doing
done.
cardio that much either, you're like high intensity stuff, which I do right now, but basketball shape is completely different.
Oh, it's a different animal, dude. It's
And you
some
know,
guy was saying, you know, I just ran the other day. I ran 10K, but when I come here and play, like I'm out of breath because you're sprinting. You know, you like
yeah,
do a sprint and then you stop, and you do a
well,
sprint and you stop.
it's aerobic, anaerobic, aerobic,
Yeah,
anaerobic,
yeah,
aerobic,
exactly,
anaerobic. It's like that, you
exactly,
know? So it's very
exactly.
different, man. So,
Yeah.
so bro, you know, before we get into it, I wanted to ask you something. You know, when we were playing, I remember the way you played, right? I remember you were totally like Sean Marion, dude. You were exactly the same player as Sean Marion, and I always wanted to get your thoughts,
Yeah.
who you thought I was like, you know, because I never got that. You know, who would you say was
So
my game?
so I mean, you played big, like you always played big.
Yeah.
So you were like a big with a small, like with a feathery touch, like what's his big O? What's his name? Not Oscar Robinson, the other guy. Oliver,
Oh,
what was his name?
Oliver Miller.
Oliver Miller, kind of like that style. I wouldn't say you
Yeah,
played like him, but
yeah,
you were like heavy in the blocks. But then when you were out, you had a nice feathery touch,
yeah.
you know. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of what the problem was that the way you played, there weren't a lot of players that played the way you played when, you know, like maybe, but you had a prettier shot, but maybe someone like what's the guy for the Knicks? Anthony Mason, maybe
Oh yeah,
something like that. But
yeah.
he had an ugly shot. Your shot was prettier, but sort of in that fashion. You
Oh,
were kind
okay.
of like that. That's the way that I would
Interesting. Interesting.
I
Yeah,
would
because
put somebody
like
like that.
that's cool, man. I never kind of got that
Yeah.
opinion of what you thought.
Yeah, yeah, Larry
But
Johnson type, that
yeah,
that
Ram
kind of
Lamont.
player. But again, those guys didn't play much on the outside. They all
Yeah,
were kind of constantly on the inside, and no one really worked on their outside shot. And you had a
yeah,
much better shot than them.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
you
man.
were
Oh,
ahead of your
no,
time, Eddie. You were ahead of your time. Had
I
you been
guess, man. I
today,
guess.
you'd have been a
Um,
stretch 3, stretch 4.
right. But the only thing is, I had the game. Like I said, I could have played in college, but they wanted me to change my major, and
Yeah,
I didn't want to do that. And I would have been kind of like more of a practice player, kind of
yeah,
help other guys get because I was kind of a tweener, and
yeah.
tweeners back then weren't valued.
No, no,
They're
that
valued
was a
now.
horrible thing. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
cuss word back then. And
yeah,
now everybody wants tweeners.
exactly,
Yeah.
bro.
I
So
remember the whole problem with us trading Mitch Richmond for Billy Owens. We were like, what's he play? Is he a point guard? Is he
yeah,
no one knew what he was,
right,
and
exactly.
so
Well, hey, man, hey, that was cool little, kind of aside from basketball. I mean, it was basketball related, but we're not, we normally talk about the NBA, and that was
yeah,
kind of like maybe our dreams of maybe becoming in the NBA
yeah,
back then, which,
yeah,
we're
no,
too small. Latinos in the NBA don't really mix unless you're tall, right? And
yeah,
we're not that tall. So, but
exactly.
anyway, all right, man. So let's get into it, bro. So we wanted to talk about the Spurs, all right? The
Okay.
Spurs are way ahead of schedule,
Yes,
way ahead of
way
schedule.
ahead, Eddie.
So, and the thing is that, when we kind of predicted things in the beginning of the season, we had the Spurs kind of up and coming, but we know it's a process for teams that are, becoming good, because the Warriors, you could see they were a process, right? It was becoming, they were going to become good. They were starting to, it's always a process to kind of progress into the playoffs. And last year, the Spurs weren't even a freaking playoff team.
No, they were not.
And now they're freaking they're only 3 games behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. The
Correct.
Oklahoma City Thunder have 14 losses, the Spurs have 16 losses. And what's interesting is that of those 14 losses the Oklahoma City Thunder have, 4 of them are against the Spurs. That's interesting. All right. So,
So the Spurs swept them this year.
here's the season series right here, bro.
I
So
thought I thought it was 3. Oh, it's 4. They played 5
4
times.
and 1. 4 and 1. They played 4
Okay,
times because they also played in the NBA Cup.
that's right. The cup.
So
That's
that's
right.
the
Thank you.
reason. That's the
Yes.
reason. So the first
Okay.
game that you see, the 111-109, was the NBA Cup. That was kind of their coming out party. They're like, "Oh
Was
man, this team is kind of like, whoa, like they beat us. They just beat the freaking Thunder, right?"
yeah,
So then, and so that by the way, they both teams were at full strength when that happened. Then the next game is 130 to 110. That happened December 23rd. Both teams are at full strength, but the Spurs beat them by 20 points. And that was the worst loss that the Oklahoma City Thunder had at that time. So we're
correct.
like, whoa,
And
this is
and and at that time, there was still conversations that they may get the all-time record in wins.
yes, Thunder,
Yes.
the Thunder,
Yes, the
right,
Thunder.
right.
Yep, yep,
So and we had a podcast about it. Are the Thunder going to threaten the Warriors 73-9 season? And we thought, hey, if they wanted to, they probably could.
yep.
But they've kind of fallen on, injuries happen, right? And they have been injured quite a bit. Jalen Williams hasn't really been playing as much as he had in the previous seasons. Hartenstein has been hurt here and there. Shea has been out recently. But they're so deep that they have a lot of guys that just fill in the roster spots, and they just keep on clicking, man. But you see the other games here, January 13th, they lost. That was the game. They were both at full strength. Okay. So that 119-108, both teams are full strength. The last game that they won, which is 116-106, that was when the Thunder didn't have Shea, nor Jalen, nor Chet, but the
Yep,
Spurs
I
didn't
remember
have
that game.
Jalen Harper,
Yep.
right? So, but anyway, yeah. So this team is definitely up and coming, bro, and they're way ahead of schedule, man. So one of the other things I want to kind of review with you are some of the analytics. Okay.
Well, before you do that, one thing that I think is important to
Yeah.
think about, and you mentioned it kind of right at the beginning of your speech there.
Yep.
The Spurs weren't in the playoffs last year,
They
and the
weren't.
Thunder were, and the
Yep.
Thunder played we call that the mini season, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how tired, the Thunder are gonna be as they go into this next postseason. That's where I think the Spurs have a little bit of an edge, right? They're fresher. I wouldn't say younger necessarily. They have young players, but I mean, the Thunder have pretty young players also. So I
Yep.
wouldn't say so much around an age gap, but I would say that I think they're going to be fresher just because they weren't in the postseason last year, and I think that's going to be an advantage to San Antonio. Plus, they beat they beat the Pistons the other night.
Oh,
They're
the Spurs
Yeah,
did.
the
Yes.
Spurs did, right? And
Yes.
right now, the Thunder are losing to the Pistons, which is another team that we could probably have this conversation about. Are the Pistons for reals as well? Because I don't think they're necessarily a year early, but they are much higher in the standings than I would have thought they would have been
Oh,
this
for
season.
sure. And they
Yeah,
they actually have the same amount of losses as the Thunder. They both have 14
correct.
losses. It looks like the Thunder are gonna have more losses now, and the Detroit Pistons are gonna have less losses, but the Pistons have played 3 less games than the Thunder, right? Percentage-wise, they're
Yep,
a little
yep,
bit lower than the Thunder right now. So, um, but anyway,
correct.
so
But they win those games right up there with.
right, exactly, man. So, but what I wanted to do is, we talked the question I asked you, right? Are the Spurs real title contenders? What do you think, man? Are they title contenders?
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I think they are. As a matter of fact, if I had to reset our stats right now,
yeah,
I think I might put them as the favorite right now, Ed.
over the Thunder.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so let me show you something, bro. Let me show you some analytics here, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
let
that's
me
that's assuming health, right? I'm assuming health.
Oh yeah, it always assumes health. So here,
Yep.
what I'm showing here, the audience, for those of you guys, have us listening to it in the car and they can't look at the screen. What we're showing here are some analytics, and we show offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating for both teams. And what you'll see here is their number, and then in parentheses is their ranking in the NBA. So the
Yep.
Spurs, their offensive rating is 117.99. That's 117 and 99 points per 100 possessions. That's what that tells you. The
Yep.
Thunder are at 119.29. That's fourth best in the
Correct.
NBA. The Spurs are seventh best in the
Correct.
NBA. Look at their defensive ratings.
Yep.
Now, the Thunder have a ridiculous 107.72 defensive rating is ridiculous. You can
Mhm.
see that's almost 4 points better than the Spurs, but the Spurs are top 3. They're 3rd in the NBA on defensive rating. Then comes the net rating. Now, the Thunder they were on a historic pace early in the year. They're now at 11.57, which is actually less than what the Boston Celtics did a few years ago, right? But
Yep.
they're number 1 overall as far as net rating. The Spurs are 4th at 6.55. So that tells you, for those of you, haven't listened to any of our podcasts, what this tells you, the net rating is that per 100 possessions, the Spurs are going to outscore you by 6.55 points, and then the Thunder are going to outscore you by 11.57 points. Now, based on this, I mean, it tells you it's pretty close. All right, it's not like that far fetched what you just said that they could come out of the West and beat the
Yep.
Thunder. So, and they have beaten them 4 times this year already out of 5, and you just said they beat the Pistons, so they are flying high as far as confidence. And
Correct.
Wembanyama isn't playing drastic minutes. They're a pretty
Right.
deep team, right?
Yep.
So I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed with this team.
You
Um,
know what? I'm not asking you to do it, but what would be interesting is if we can graph these ratings from the beginning of the season to now, because my guess would be that if we had a chart, the Thunder are in a downward trajectory and the Spurs are in an upward trajectory.
it might, but the thing is I don't know if that data is available right now. I think you have to be diligent at checking it every day and then charting it yourself, because I don't
Right.
think they do this I don't think any sites do that right now. That chart.
No, I don't think so either. But I do remember that when we looked at the rating earlier in the season, I want to say they were at 13 and change. The rating was at
Oh, it
13.
was way higher. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were like
Yeah.
that.
So obviously if you just did it by the overall net rating, something's falling.
Yeah,
Whether it's the offense, whether
it's
it's
their
the
health.
defense.
They had health issues, man.
Yeah.
A lot of their guys have been in and out of the lineup recently. Hartenstein hasn't played that much. Jalen Williams, from Santa Clara,
Yep.
has been in and out a lot.
Yeah.
Recently, Shea has been out. Alex Caruso has been out. Lou Dort here and there. has been out, but not like as drastic as the other guys. But the guys that I just mentioned, all of those guys have been in that lineup, and some of these other guys are emerging, like Isaiah Joe. You also have a Jalen Williams from Arkansas who plays.
Correct. Jared McCain that they
Yeah,
just up in the
Jared
trade.
McCain just got picked up. Then you got Kenrich Williams who's playing now, right? So all of these guys are filling in the voids, and they're doing a really good job of doing it. So just like the Warriors, our team, we'll talk about on another segment. The Warriors, the Thunder, because of their depth, they have players that are filling the voids, and they're actually still playing at a very high level.
Yeah,
Whereas right now the Warriors are their big three, really big two right now, right? Big three with Kristaps Porzingis, right?
sure.
All the young guys are getting their time, and they're trying to fill the void right now too, right? So,
Yeah,
um, all right, bro. So, let me go ahead and show you something else here. So, right here you have the starters versus bench. Okay,
gotcha.
now 76.8 points for the starters
Yes.
is 20th best in the NBA by the Spurs. When I saw that, that was very surprising, man. I thought they would be a lot higher than that. The bench is seventh best at 41.6. This is the Spurs, seventh best in the NBA. When you see that kind of data, it doesn't spit out, oh my God, this is a championship team, right? You
No.
expect, maybe the starters would be top 10, maybe. And then you have, maybe the Spurs, or excuse me, the bench being in the top 10, which they are, but that surprised me to see the starters being,
Yeah, and
this
and
low.
and this is a little bit not so much for the Thunder because they're proven, but this is a little bit of a troubling stat for the Spurs because when you get into the postseason, you're going to depend on the rotation shrinks, and you're going to depend on your starters significantly more. So if
More.
I'm looking at this stat right now, clearly their strength is their bench, right? Their bench is what's kind of saving their bacon. Well, you're eliminating some of that strength because the starters are going to have to play more minutes.
Yes.
Right. So that this is an interesting stat. This would cause me. I'd have to kind of think on this and reflect. But right now, this would be something that could be used, at least from a metric perspective, to maybe second guess the Spurs in the postseason.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of it that way,
Yep.
but it's interesting that for the playoffs, we're down to the last 25 games of the regular season, roughly for everybody, right?
Correct.
And I think this is the time when, some of these coaches really try and, taper down their rotation and try and prepare that for the postseason. Now, for the most part, most teams, most coaches don't like to go more than eight
Mm-hmm.
deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some might go nine, you know, Thunder could do that. Spurs could do that, right? So maybe we can see that being a different trend with, a rotation being deeper. But for the most part, most teams or most coaches only have up to eight being the max.
Yeah.
Now,
And for the Spurs, the starters are what? Barnes, Fox, Wembanyama, Castle, and who's the fifth? Who am I forgetting?
let's see. Champagne, I think, is another guy who plays.
Yep, Penny.
Champagne,
Okay.
yeah, he plays typically. So and then Dylan Harper comes off the bench. He doesn't
Yep.
even start.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, and so yeah, this team is but what's we won't get into, but it's all about matchups, man, right? Certain
It is.
teams place other teams very, very well. And for whatever reason, the Spurs seem to have the Thunder's number, right? Now,
Correct.
when you look at the Thunder's numbers, it's not that far off because you're only talking about 2 point difference for the starters, and two
Yep.
points get you six ranking better. You rank better by 6 slots with the 2 point difference, right? As far as the starters scoring. Then you have the Thunder bench is at 40.6 points per game. That's ninth, right? But looking at that, you like just without even thinking about this, most people who don't really follow stats, that probably surprises them a little bit
Yep.
because if you see like a team like the Thunder being like that great, you're like thinking, oh man, their starters are the best in the NBA, and their bench is the best in the NBA. That's what you would think, right? So that in itself, these metrics to me are a little bit surprising based on where these teams are at. That's just
But
me without even really, knowing the how, the how what this really represents, right? I just kind of wanted to show you what, just what a innocent bystander who doesn't know much about basketball, and we're not that, but most people who follow basketball but don't follow the numbers that closely, I bet you that
yeah.
surprises them. So
Yeah, and the one thing to note here too that is interesting is the starter's stat is calculated by whoever starts that game, right?
yes,
Which
yeah,
which which means since the Thunder have had a lot of injuries or a lot of missed games, that would imply that some of those starter minutes are in fact minutes
maybe,
when everybody's at full capacity,
yeah.
right?
Well,
So I would say that that favors the Thunder because you're going, all right, they're 78-8, but they've missed their starters for X amount of games. If their starters played those games, that number might be higher. And then the bench players, that number might be higher because they're playing as starter minutes. So just something to think about, right? So when I look at this, to me, this stat favors the starters and it sort of hurts the Spurs.
interesting. All right,
Yeah.
cool, man.
That's the way that I would kind of edge it right now, just if obviously if I'm thinking about it.
So before I even showed you this data,
Yeah.
I asked you the question, do you think the Spurs are title contenders? And you're
Yeah. Oh
saying
yeah.
yes, right?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
after seeing what I showed you, does that support it even more? Or does that
Yes.
make you question it a little bit?
No, I think it's supported even more. I mean, at the end of the day, I got to take the stats for what they are.
Yeah,
So they're the second best team or the third best team in the league right now, record wise.
yeah,
Right? But yet they're 20th in starters and they're seventh in bench,
yeah,
which to me tells me that, they're this to me it supports those numbers. I think that right now, San Antonio is definitely a contender. I think that if they continue down the route, obviously experience counts for a whole lot and how they do in the postseason.
yes.
But I think that they are definitely a threat to represent the West in the finals.
Yeah, and I would say they're definitely a threat. I just like I said earlier, typically it's a process. This was a play-in team last year, right? They haven't necessarily been in a 7-game series like against the Thunder, and they're probably not going to go against the Thunder until the conference finals based
Correct.
on the brackets, right? There are teams that are in the seventh and eighth, namely like the Warriors, right? The Warriors, if they get there, they've proven that they match up pretty well against the Spurs for whatever
Correct.
reason. And I would argue that the Warriors are definitely going to try and vie to be in the bracket where they're playing against the Spurs in the first round. They're definitely going to try and avoid the Thunder, but I think that they have more confidence against the Spurs.
I
So,
agree.
right. So and then it just depends if Curry comes back around. But we're not going to get into the Warriors segment. I just want to give you kind of an example.
No. That's a fair point. I mean,
Yeah.
and to me, when you ask San Antonio, are they a contender? When you look at it on the backdrop of, to me, the biggest threats right now, to me, to the Spurs are the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Timberwolves. To me,
Yep.
those are the biggest threats to challenge them. And to me, Houston's not been as good as I thought they were going to be this year.
Yep.
Uh,
They
Denver
missed Fred
seems to
VanVleet,
have,
man. They missed Fred
yeah,
VanVleet.
no, they absolutely do. And now you have all of this Twitter finger
Yeah, the
talk
burner account
stuff.
stuff is
You
like I'm
know,
getting in. Yep, that
yeah,
burner
yeah,
account.
whether the team buys it or not, I'm a big believer in, vibes. And
Yep,
when it affects the vibes, the team starts playing disjointed and disconnected.
I
The
agree with you.
Nuggets have had a series of injuries,
Yep,
and Jokic is looking heavy. He's looking less like Superman. He's still an incredible player. Don't get me wrong. I still think if you stop the league today, he's probably the best player in the league right now, today. Right?
absolutely is.
Wembanyama's close on his tail and he's
He's
coming
right
up
on
right
his
now.
tail, bro. Yep,
Yeah, but right now it's still the Joker. And then the Timberwolves, they're still trying to figure things out. I would say that the biggest threat to the Spurs are the Timberwolves, and I think the Spurs can beat the Timberwolves. So I think that just merely by the competition that they have, I say they're contenders just because I don't know if any of those teams could beat the Spurs in a 7-game series.
yep. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm with you that the Spurs can emerge, but the one thing that hasn't really plagued the Spurs that has plagued the Thunders this season are injuries. So
There,
Thunder have had a lot of injuries more than they had in previous years,
correct.
and the fact that this is why you're seeing kind of this lull from them recently is because of that. But I think that they're going to be more battle tested. They already have the experience, and once they get at full strength, then that's when we're really going to see what the Spurs are made of
Yeah,
when that happens, right?
yeah,
That
but remember, Eddie, one of the main reasons for injuries is fatigue.
Yeah.
And the Thunder have played the most games of any Western Conference team right now. So those
Correct.
injuries, they're part of, to me, they're part of the calculation when you win a championship. The following season, those are things you're gonna have to deal with
Yeah.
because of the amount of games that the team has played. And
Yep.
so we'll see if they ever get full strength. They haven't seemed to get it all down yet, but we'll see how it plays out. But I think it's gonna be, if it's a Spurs Thunder, Western Conference Finals, I think that's going to be really. I'm going to have my popcorn. I'm going to be ready to
Oh,
go.
for sure.
That's going to be a fun watch.
It's gonna be must see
Yeah,
TV, very captivating, right? For
yeah,
sure. So
exactly.
right on, brother. So, all right, man. The last thing I want to ask you about, I mean, before we end our segment or before we end our podcast, we're 30 minutes into it. I wanted to ask you about an article that just came out today about, ESPN put a pretty interesting article about the secret that, the relationship between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant that was never really known, right?
Yeah,
And the basis of the article was about, the Black Mamba. The whole campaign about the Black Mamba was not intended for Kobe Bryant. It was
yes,
actually intended for Michael Jordan. And the
yes,
whole reason why Michael Jordan didn't want it is because he's terrified of snakes, right?
right.
And what's interesting is that I read that even Jordan's kids, played pranks on him with the snake and throwing like rubber snakes. And then Jordan was pissed about it, and you can see like, because Jordan was, he's a big trash talker, right? He liked to get in your head. And I guess
Yep.
you didn't want that to be revealed that, that during this time, because then somebody can trash talk him and then probably get in his head about the snakes and throw a
Yeah.
fucking rubber snake at him and just take it out
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
his right?
Exactly. Tattoo of a snake and be all
But anyway, so I wanted to kind of, what are some of your reactions when you read it? What are some of the things that stood out to you when you read that
So,
article?
you know me, I'm forever the pessimist. I didn't like the story coming. I didn't like the story coming out.
Okay.
I'm gonna be frank.
Do you think because of it's a secret that doesn't really buy you anything? I mean, it's very interesting.
Well, it does buy you something to me. Now, I don't know who leaked it, how this was discovered,
Yeah.
but to me, it's a reach around way of kind of Michael still proving that he's number one. Like I gave Kobe got something I didn't want,
Yeah.
kind of deal. And I don't
Well,
I don't like that. I don't like that. If Kobe was still alive, maybe I'd have a little bit of a different, kind of feel to it. And
yeah.
they could defend themselves or whatever. I
Yeah.
personally think that, the campaign fit Kobe perfectly, which is probably why no one ever questioned it, you know. But I don't see the benefit of sharing this today. I just, other than making Jordan look good, like making Jordan look like he just gave something away and Kobe took it,
It's
kind of deal.
interesting that you have that
That's
perspective. Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. When I read it, and I was trying to read it as quickly as I could, just because I wanted to kind of understand the gist of it, so I can ask you about it. Is
yeah,
that it's an interesting little tale about how these two were joined, because we all know that Kobe Bryant was a astute student of Jordan,
yes,
copied everything about
yep,
that guy. Even the
yes,
chewing gum process that
yes,
Jordan did, he
yes,
would do. Yeah, I mean, he definitely was trying to be exactly like Jordan. And he is to this day the closest we have to Jordan.
I
To this
agree,
day, the
I
only
agree.
player that probably mimicked his game and was very close to, he just didn't have all the titles, although he has five, Jordan has six, and he didn't have the MVPs. Jordan, I think, had six, and then, Kobe only had one. So the way I looked at the article, bro, it was kind of like showcasing Jordan, being, because we all see him as a demigod of a player, right? That
Hmm.
he's human too. He has fears like anybody, right? That's the way I kind of looked at it.
Yeah,
And then at the very end of the article, it was kind of saying that the year of the Mamba, right, of the snake, they just released the new Mamba shoes to kind of commemorate or Kobe and his
yeah.
legacy, and they kind of made it more snake looking and stuff. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool. That was a kind of it was
No,
also kind of good.
it's cool, but to me, it kind of demeans it kind of questions like he's not really the Mamba then, right? The Mamba was really,
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
you
Yeah,
know what I
it was
mean?
like
It takes away, and the way I look at Eddie is like big brother, little brother, kind of.
okay.
I shouldn't bring the shine on me at the cost of my little brother.
Yeah, yeah,
Interestingly enough, I watch a lot of podcasts, and you were mentioning the mimicking. So interesting you bring this up because I don't remember where it was from. I want to say maybe it was Gilbert Arenas' podcast or something, but they were having an argument about how Kobe was better than Jordan because Kobe took everything Jordan did and kind of raised it up a level, and
okay.
there was a counter on that, which I found fascinating, which is the counter was Kobe emulated Jordan in the later years. He never emulated Jordan in the 80s. He emulated what Jordan was in the 90s when Jordan wasn't Air Jordan, when Jordan was more on the lean back shots, more of the 3-point shooter,
Yeah,
picked his moments, which is really true because for those that weren't old enough, Jordan was a very different animal early on. I mean, that dude was, Vince Carter-esque, early on when he started, and then as he refined his game, So I would say that yes, Kobe emulated his game, and he was mini Jordan, but
yeah.
not the whole Jordan, right? Like a piece of what Jordan was
I know what you mean.
later in his career.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I know what you mean for sure,
yeah, yeah,
and but, I thought the piece was interesting,
yeah.
um, but I can understand the point of view that you have, that it's kinda maybe more showcasing Jordan's greatness at
Correct.
the expense of Kobe Bryant, because we all know Kobe Bryant to be the Black Mamba,
Yeah,
and it wasn't initially intended to be his, marketing campaign.
correct.
It was Jordan's campaign, and Jordan, because of Jordan's fear of Mambas, he kinda maybe steered the marketing campaign in a different direction, and
Yeah.
then, Kobe kinda taking the scraps, I guess, if you will,
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah, and I don't wanna paint it like it was that ugly. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, Kobe's earned everything he's got, and I
for
just think
sure.
it takes a little bit of shine off of him, and for what? Like, for what? What's its purpose, I mean, yes, I like the insights, but maybe the story could have been released that Jordan was afraid of snakes, and we never had to really associate it to anything else.
Yeah, yeah,
If
I
he
hear you,
wants
I
to
hear you,
show.
I
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah,
Yeah,
but again, it is. I mean, and this is also assuming that someone at Nike or someone in Camp Jordan released it. If this was just figured out by some reporter somehow,
yeah, yeah,
some way, then it's nobody's fault. It's just a story that gets out, and it is what it is. And it's an interesting thing to know. It is interesting. But to me, you and I aren't Laker fans or Warrior fans. I've always respected Kobe, but I've never been a Kobe like fanatic per
yeah,
se. But
yeah,
I've always respected the guy. The guy plays hard. The guy is singularly minded, focus on his game. And to
yeah,
me, when I think of a Mamba like that, like it's him. Like it fits him to a T.
yeah,
That moniker fits him to the T. And even if it wasn't intended for him, I don't see, to me, Jordan's not like that. Like there is a difference, even though they play similar, their approach Kobe was much more, how would I put this? When I look at them, Kobe was much more focused on work, and Jordan was much more focused on ego. Jordan was, I'm going to be the best because I say I'm the best.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's
interesting.
kind of how I see them, and their driving force is a little different, one
Yeah,
versus
that's
the other.
interesting.
Yeah,
Even Phil Jackson, had a comparison between 2, 'cause they asked, who was better. They asked Phil Jackson, as he coached both guys, right, in their primes,
yeah,
and he said that, uh, Kobe was better with the ball in his hand, and Jordan was better of a player without the ball in his hand.
yeah.
That's what the difference was,
Okay, yeah,
between those 2. So, it kind of makes you think that Jordan was more of a team player than Kobe. That's kind of what
maybe, maybe.
kind of insinuates a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, but, with the ball, that you said that, Kobe was better with the
yeah,
ball in his hand.
yeah.
That's interesting. So, but anyway, bro, um, we covered, essentially the Spurs and why we think that they're title contender. We showed a lot of the analytics and so forth. Then we just kind of, wanted to talk a little bit about that article. But we're pretty much up on time here. I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is the Anthony Twan Corral. We are brought to you by grumblingsmedia.com. Tune in every week. We're here. Although next week I'm going to be on vacation. All right. So more than likely we're going to take a break next week, and then we'll come back the week after that. So that'll be whatever the 9th, the 11th. The 11th is when we'll be back, but we're gonna take a break. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and you can find us at grumblingsmedia.com or wherever you get your podcast. Until then, have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
See ya.
Hey everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all-volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these two boxes for more of our work.